Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Neil, the Adventurous Investor, and make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with all the latest videos. Anyway, today I'll be talking about my top 5 podcasts that I listen to. Podcasting's huge at the moment. Everyone's into podcasting, and with good reason. There's some good, valuable content getting produced out there, and I 100% recommend getting on there. It's free, good, easy stuff you can listen to while you're driving to work in the morning or cooking the dinner or whatever the task may be. I used to listen to it religiously. I was working on the rigs for a number of years in the laundry and whatnot, so it's quite sort of boring sort of task, but throw a podcast in, it'd be great. The day would disappear. I'm just taking in all that good, valuable knowledge. Anyway, let's kick the list off. Number 1 on the list, this is more of a New Zealand sort of based podcast, but also a great podcast if you're sort of stepping into the personal finance, sort of want to get on top of your finance, and that's Cooking the Books with Frances Cook. Okay, she's a Kiwi bird, so it's quite a nice, pleasant sort of accent to listen to, and she just goes into very basic sort of finance-related topics, how to budget and best bank accounts, best mortgages, and any organising rentals and just basic day-to-day stuff that you need to know that they don't sort of teach you in school. She obviously goes into it in more detail on her podcast. They're super short. They're about 10 to 15 minutes long, so easy to, you can knock over 3 or 4 of them easy before your brain starts to hurt. Anyway, so that's the number 1 for starting out. And number 2, this is also another quite easy one to sort of take in and understand. It's 2 Australian guys that also have their own YouTube channel as well, and that's the Young Investors podcast with Hamish and Brandon. Okay, these guys are once again super easy to listen to. They're value-based investors, so they sort of mimic and copy the big investors out there, the Warren Buffetts and that. They're not doing swing trading or day trading. They're long-term value investors, which is a great investing philosophy. So 100% recommend these guys. Their podcasts are a bit long. They're about an hour long, but they go into, a great sort of detail of what's sort of happening in the current market. They talk a lot about US market and what they're doing over there. They invest a lot of their money in the US sort of market as well. So they go into that topic, and it's just good banter, a couple of lads having a laugh and talking about business and finance and whatnot. So also a great one to listen to. Number 3 on the list would be We Study Billionaires. Okay, this is a bit more of a heavier finance-related podcast where they do a bit more of a deeper dive into, the investing world. And once again, they're following that value-based investing, long-term, buying good companies at a good price and just riding them out for 10, 20, 30 years, holding them for your lifetime, essentially. And they really sort of go into the nitty-gritty and the detail of what these big value billionaire investors are doing, and particular purchases that they're making in the market, and they really sort of analyze it or break it down, what they think they're doing and the reason why behind they're doing it. Really good. You can gain some good insight through this podcast. Once again, like I said, it is a bit more heavy though. So if you're just sort of getting into finance and business and just dipping your toe, this might be a little bit too heavy going. So maybe save that one for once you've got a little bit of experience behind you. But also a great podcast. Number 4 on the list. Okay, this is by Phil Town and Danielle, his daughter, and that's Invested, the Rule 1 Investing podcast. Okay, this is a father and daughter combo. They're great. They bounce off each other quite well. Super easy to listen to. They go into their sort of value-based investing that they do. He has a hedge fund now that he sort of actively manages, and they sort of talk about the investments they're making, the rules that they sort of follow before they make an investment, the reasons why they make this investment, and just, once again, following the principles and rules that Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger and all these other guys, like I've said, they sort of follow the same sort of rule book as well. Also a great book. If you haven't read his books, I recommend his books. Great, easy to read books, and they do a real deep dive into the nitty-gritty of how to analyze a company. Anyway, so that's coming in at number 4. And number 5, this is more of a business-related podcast rather than a hard sort of finance podcast, but also good if you're sort of going into the world of business or you just want to understand how businesses operate and whatnot. And that's The Mentor with Mark Boris. Okay, this is an Australian podcast. He's an Australian guy, famous businessman here in Australia. And he interviews different businesses each week and sort of goes into their backstory of how they got into business and how they grew up, where they grew up, what was their influences in their life, what were their parents like, and really sort of gets into the nitty-gritty, dives deep into how they got into the business they are within the business that they're in, and sort of how they're marketing it, and really gives you really good insight into a whole different world of business. It's not one sort of sector he's sort of concentrating on. He covers even small-time businesses that are just starting out, or guys that have been in business for 10, 20 years, and not always just business. Sometimes he gets boxes on there. He gets some quite famous people on there. Yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk on there, also another quite a heavily influencer on all multimedia channels. But yeah, great, easy to listen to, really interviews well. So he's one of my top sort of business podcasts that I like. So those are my top 5. If you guys have any other podcasts that you guys like and recommend, definitely drop them in the comments below. I'm always keen to sort of look for new, good finance related podcasts. So definitely drop them in the comments below. I'll get on there and have a bit of a look. But that's pretty much what I've got for you guys today. Make sure you hit the like button if you enjoyed that, and hit the subscribe button below if you want to be the first in the know when the next video drops. All right, guys, have a good day. We'll catch you later. See ya.